Hello and welcome to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be testing out some new art supplies, and I ordered these off Amazon and I think they came from Japan. It took quite a while for them to arrive and they're finally here. And what is it? It's acrylic gouache. So I'm excited to see how I like these and if they're worth the money. So far, when it came to gouache, I've always been using these ACRYLIC gouache tubes, and I must say I'm very happy with them actually, but you can't get them singly. I could really do with some new white. Yeah, well there's that. But also I just wanted to try out acrylic gouache and see how I like the fact that it dries permanently and you can layer over it. The disadvantage, of course, is that it dries permanently and you can't re-wet it. So once it's dried on the palette, I think I'm going to be using this little porcelain plate for today. Once it dries, it's not going to re-wet, so you can't use your rests. And you can't blend as much. And I'm not sure if I've really blended very much so far using gouache. Well, we shall see how this goes. And I have a set of primaries. I'm capable of mixing colors, but I've never really worked with just 3 colors to go off of. We'll see how this goes. I'm just squeezing out really small amounts because once it's dried I can't reuse it. And I've heard others say they use a spray bottle to keep their paints wet longer. Of course I have to think of using it for that to work, using it in time. Okay. So here the colors are, and I'm going to, I guess, just swatch them out. Use an empty page in my sketchbook and a synthetic brush. I think I'll take a small one. We want to go sparingly. Oh yeah, what do others always do? They have a black line to see how opaque it is, and I don't have a black marker, so that's not going to work. There's a black line. So, adding in a little bit of water. I must say the consistency is very nice. They seem creamy. That's not terribly opaque there, is it? I guess it depends on how much paint you apply. Just thin it out a little bit. Or acrylic. It's very smooth. Maybe it reminds me more of watercolors or oils. And what I've also heard is that that's nice and big, that they dry more or less the same color as when you apply them wet. So that would be interesting. And the white. honestly can't say very much about them yet at this point. I think I just have to use them in a painting. What I can say is they apply very nice and smoothly. They feel nice on the paintbrush, and we shall see how it's like to paint with them. So I'll be using this reference photo, which I found on Pixabay, and just going to sketch out a few little guidelines. I should have used a square sketchbook for this. My reference photo has a different format. I'd better hurry up so my paints don't dry on the palette. So now it's time to switch over to a voiceover and a sped up painting process. So you don't have to sit here and watch me paint for over an hour. Anyway, I've finished my sketch and I'm starting to paint in the background. By the way, if you enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate if you gave me a thumbs up and possibly subscribed. Also, I've uploaded some more paintings to my Etsy shop, so if you feel like checking that out, I'd really appreciate it. I'm starting with a fairly watered down wash, just not for any particular reason. I'm just trying out the paints and seeing how they behave when they're watered down. And yeah, they're not so much different to watercolor watered down as you would expect of gouache. And I'm just mixing a bit of a purplish color with some magenta and blue, a little bit of yellow to mute it, and mixing in some white as well. I'm preserving some white in the middle of the sky, and mixing in some yellow to symbolize the light coming through the clouds. And I do think that effect turned out fairly nice in the end. Just building up the clouds, using less water now, becoming a bit more opaque, mixing in some white as well. A little bit of black goes in there now and then. And some more hints of yellow where the sun reflects off the clouds. I really do love dramatic skies. Starting in the foreground now, and I'm mixing a nice muted green. Basically, nearly all the colours I had went into that. It's not enough to just mix blue and yellow to get green, at least not one that's realistic. It would have been way too vibrant. And in this landscape, there's a lot of brown and reddish tones in the grassy areas. I'm not making a very detailed landscape painting here. I'm just kind of symbolizing the different textures. I don't actually know what flowers these are in the painting, but I assume probably heather. And it reminds me of Ireland. I'm not sure if it actually is, because I did get this picture online. Might have said it there, but I didn't check. When you mix yellow, magenta and blue, you can get a fairly neutral dark tone, but I was very happy to also have the black to really darken up some areas, just to get that contrast. And here I'm starting painting in the stones of the path that vanishes into the distance. I think the perspective on this is really nice. It was certainly interesting working with such a limited colour palette. I do often use a more limited colour palette, but never quite as limited as this. It is a challenge. I mean, it costs time to to mix colors to get them right. And I'm not inclined to mix big batches of colors, so I'm also inclined to run out, which I guess it's good in this case, because if I mix too much and then it dried up on me, that wouldn't be much use. So further thoughts on the paints. This is not the only painting I've painted up until now. This footage was filmed about 2 weeks ago now, and I've painted about 4 more paintings since. And I find for landscape painting, well, that's due to the limited color palette, I think. Landscape painting worked out fine for me. I found it very hard to draw or paint a horse though, because that horse was basically entirely brown and orange, and it was just so difficult to get the different tones right. And yeah, I had to mix neutral tones all the time, and yeah, it was just difficult. Anyway, for landscape paintings, I've been doing fine. I really like how they turned out. And what I did notice though, if I didn't mix in a lot of white, these paintings more closely resembled nearly acrylic paintings in my mind. The vibrancy, and yeah, they weren't necessarily super matte as you might expect from gouache. But when I did mix in more white in some of the paintings, yeah, then it was more gouache-like. But on the other hand, that might just be the case with other gouache paints as well. Maybe so far I've always used a lot of white, and I didn't in this case. So I'm going into the sky again, adding another layer, adding some more texture, some more white, and making the clouds a bit more grey. They're very purplish, very reddish at the moment. Yeah, what I was trying to say earlier, it's the hardest to get neutral tones because it requires the most mixing. I'm adding in some contrast now, and I'm nearly finished at this point. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful in some way. And I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.